Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
What happens when you are structured and disciplined, you're highly effective and productive, you've got everything written down about what it is you're planning to do, and then something you never anticipated occurs and you've got to drop everything and be flexible? We're going to be discussing this today on Dr. Jacalyn Unscripted. Joining me is my dear friend and colleague and the co-host of the show, Mr. Roland Friedl. Let's see what he's been up to. Hi, Roland.
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn. Great to see you again. Hello to our audience. Hello.
Hello. Great to see you again. We were just talking backstage. I have a very hard time keeping up with where you're going. And the whole point is, from the beginning of what I said, is you're getting a lot of things done. You are highly effective. And tell us a little bit about what's happened to you in the last few days.
Well, hello, everyone. What happened for me, as you mentioned, Dr. Jacalyn, I'm very structured. I make some plans, to go forward with my business and my private life. But then always things happen, and this time, in my relationship, I'm getting older. So my aunties or everyone is getting older. So with all elder people, you always have some issues to get sick, or like that happened last week. My auntie fell out of the bed around midnight, so she broke some bones. She went to the hospital or with the Red Cross, and I was in Germany, by the way, for some business meetings and some private meetings, and then I had to head back because she's back home, so I'm taking care about her. So yeah, sometimes plans are there, but sometimes you are interrupted by some things that you have not in control, and sometimes you don't have control. You don't have control about some things, but it is like it is. Man, it's all about flexibility.
I agree with you, and I'm so glad that you're there for your auntie. I know last night I led a coaching session. It was over around 10 after 9, and I was ready to go to sleep at 9:30 after 2 really hard workouts and a full day. And I fell asleep and the fire alarm went off in the building, and it kept going on. It went off. I don't know. It must have been going off for half an hour, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's like, leave the building, do this, do that. And it's gone off since I've lived here this time, maybe, I don't know, 10 times. So you start to think to yourself, really? So I look out the window and I look to see if the fire department, if there's any fire trucks on the way, because the fire department's not that far from here. And normally there's one fire truck and you see it making the turn and coming into the complex, but there wasn't anything last night. So I thought, you want to get mad about it and think, is somebody doing this? It's kind of a joke. And then I thought, well, maybe the alarms just go off automatically when certain things happen. So then, and I'm coming to the end of the story, I thought, oh my gosh, what if my apartment's flooded again? So I got up and I started running around the apartment, looking in the studio, because this is where it happened last time. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to complain about the alarm going off. Hopefully no one's hurt. My apartment's not being flooded. And then finally it went off. But the point is, I was so looking forward to a peaceful night of sleep, and then it was interrupted. And you just have to, you do your best.
Absolutely. My gosh. Yeah, but most people are really triggered by things that change when something happens. Most people are triggered. But I believe, I don't know what you think, Dr. Jacalyn, but when you're a structured person, you have a certain plan. In German, we say rote Faden, like it's called a spinning thread. When you have a kind of roten Faden, when you know where your goal is, when you're heading to, whenever things happen, you always know how to come back to the road and follow your instruction. After the challenge is mastered or the problem is sorted out. So I think when the more structured you are, meaning that you're not heading to your structure, because when there's a change coming, there's a change coming. Because some people are very structured, but they try to keep the structure, keep going, but it's not working because something changed. But when you can let go for a while, sort out a problem or handle a challenge, whatever, but then you just come back and follow your routine. What do you think?
That's right. Yeah, I agree with you. You acknowledge what it is that's happening. And I always think I'm supposed to learn something from this. And even in times when it's something very unpleasant, I remember, and I shared this before, when my car's literally, the Mercedes started slowing itself down and it basically stopped on a major 8-lane highway, and a tow truck came. It was a whole experience. But I thought to myself, the lesson was, make sure that you are prepared in the future if this happens. Make sure you have water in the car, make sure, whatever it might be, you've got to be prepared because you just don't know. But to your point, there are times and people I've worked with, people I know, when something goes off kilter, it completely stops them in their tracks. And I always think, why aren't you expecting something? You might not know what it is, but why aren't you anticipating that something is going to go off the rails? Because that's how life is. It's a journey.
100%, 100%. And as I said, it's always a learning. And what I learned is, because, my partner, she always said, you stay so calm. You never freak out, whatever happened, and sometimes really bad things happen. When you remember when I was traveling back from Italy, I couldn't get into my motorhome and stuff like that. I never freak out, so I always stay calm, because what I learned is, okay, step back, start breathing, inhale, exhale, start breathing, and coming down. And the next thing is, instead of falling into a victim manner, victim mindset. Why does it happen to me? Why is it always me, poor boy or poor girl? Stepping back, breathing, and then, okay, what's the issue? I think most people have a biased perception. And I think it's all about being very clear, getting clarity. What are the facts? And then what are the next steps to sort it out? And therefore you need calmness. And for me, it helps just breathing, stepping back, breathing, slowly coming back, and then, okay, getting clarity, because I think clarity is so important, because when we have clarity, we have security. And when we have security, then we can step forward and move whatever happened on the way on our journey.
Absolutely. I agree. And I'd like to also add what I found through exercise and working out. This just happened, I think it was on Friday, in this class that I take, which is interval training between running and sprints, and then going on the floor and doing various core work and weights. I was doing a shoulder press with one arm, and I picked up a heavy weight. I think it was 30 pounds. And I was trying to do 6 reps. And my arm started shaking. And all of a sudden, for a moment, I thought, oh my gosh, because you could rip your shoulder out, right? You could fall backwards from the weight. And I thought, just hold it where it is and just breathe, and you will make a decision. But first of all, calm your heart rate down. Nothing's going to happen. Just hold. You don't have to go any higher. Just hold it here. And so I then said to myself, afterwards, I put the weight down, and I thought, okay, what was I supposed to learn from this? And it was basically, you were on your second class and you already did however many sets in the first class. Don't pick up a heavier weight in the second class, maybe go with a lighter weight. And so it was kind of a training for me to say, okay, figure out where you are and work with it then. But I could have easily, and then I could have ripped my shoulder out. Anything could have happened. And it's the same thing now when I'm on the treadmill. I fell off the treadmill last year in August, and now I'm back to running. And so yesterday, when the coach says, put something else on, add another 0.5 or take the incline up 2 or whatever it might be. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it in moderation, and I'm going to take that out of my mind that I'm going to fall, because now I know the panic button, the stop button is right in front of me, and all I have to do is hit boom and it'll stop. But I didn't realize that when I fell in August. I just never even looked at the machine. I don't know if you've ever seen treadmills, but they have stop. They have whatever it is in your language that you can just hit it and the machine will stop right away.
Yeah, you have an emergency button.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, one question maybe interesting for our audience is, when we talk about structure planning, do you use any digital gadgets or a manual book? How you structure your day? Do it structure by every hour, or some people structure by every 15 minutes? How clear are you, or how specific are you when you are planning your day and your week?
My calendar it's in my phone, obviously, but it's also on a yellow legal pad with the lines. And what I do is I sit down on a Saturday or Sunday and I handwrite Sunday, June 14th. And then I put 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I put from 8 in the morning until 9 at night. And I do the same thing for every other day. So it's scheduled on the hour. However, there are things that I do on the half hour. So then in between the 2 hours, I'll put .30 and then I put whatever it is. So I usually am planned out probably a month in advance, including my workout schedule and then anything that I'm doing in terms of both of my businesses or personally. It's all scheduled to the hour. How about you?
Well, I sit down mostly on Sundays. So mostly Sunday evenings I blend the next week. Well, blending meaning I already have some appointments. So I use my smartphone because it's always with me. But I also use an analog book like this. I love it.
Oh, nice! I like that too.
Chance planner that looks like this. And I always write down my goals, my vision, everything, and then my calendar. What I do is, of course, when I do a TV show, for example, or having a Zoom call or whatever, I'm very precise in the timing. But when I say, okay, let's work next week, I'm working on a book, or I'm working on a new business concept, or I'm working this and that, I make blocks of 3 hours. I make 3 hours blocks. And then this, let's say from 1 to 4 p.m., it's blocked for writing a book or editing or, I don't know, designing a new workshop or whatever. And then this time is blocked. I don't pick up the phone. I don't read emails and everything. So I stay focused for 3 hours just on this task. And this helped me. I do 2 to 3 hour blocks a week where I work very focused on specific stuff, and then I let some hours around because, as we talked before, there can always something happens. There's some urgency or whatever, or some problem to sort out. But I plan my days from the morning to the evening too, more or less. But I let some space for emergency because I don't know what your experience is, but when I was planning too tight and something happens, then I had to shift all my appointments and video calls, and then it becomes a mess. So I don't plan too tight.
Yeah, I agree with you. There are always things that come up, but what I do find is, for example, I typically get up the same time every day, which is usually between 5:30 and 6 a.m. And I will immediately go to my computer and I start working. And before you know it, it's like the same thing happened today. I knew I had to wash my hair and it's 15 after 8 and I have to be here at 10 of 9. I'm like, because I sat down at the computer and sometimes I just get so engrossed in what I'm doing. And then I'm frantically thinking, okay, I've got a show at 9. I've got one at 10. I've got one at 11. I've got a lunch. Like I've got all these things plus things that I need to do in between. And then I'm a little OCD in that everything in my home has to be in a perfect condition before I leave so that nothing can be astray. The bed has to, like, it's crazy. So I put an extra like half an hour of pressure on myself. And then I think, how am I going to get it all done by the time I walk out the door? And somehow I managed to get it done. It's a little crazy.
Absolutely. But if the funny thing is, there's my personal experience is, I wouldn't say the better plan, but what I would say is the clearer I am about the week as a whole, what I want to achieve at the end of the week, the more I achieve during the week. It's not only setting appointments or to-do lists. What I always do on a Sunday is write down, okay, what's my goal for the next week in general? So I write down my goals in business. I write down my goal in finances. I write down my goals on my health, on my fitness, on my emotions and everything. So I always write down, okay, what's the the overall goal for the whole week. And then I said, okay, when there's something coming in, is it important or is it just urgent? Because, some urgency comes from outside. Importance is something from inside I want to achieve. And this helps me to have this overview to decide if I go to a meeting or join a call or not. So that's what I'm doing too.
Yeah, it makes sense. So my question for you is, with all the people you interact with and all your travels, different countries, not everyone's like us, not everyone's structured and disciplined. So how do you set yourself up to mentally be in a calm place when you're dealing with people who maybe are not in such a calm place? Some people, their mind is going constantly and they can't even focus on what it is you're saying. How do you deal with that?
Meditating.
Meditation, not medication, folks. Meditation.
No, meditation. No. But as I'm getting older and more mature and more relaxed in my younger years, because I was always very impatient, I was always very impatient. But I get more relaxed with people like that. So, okay, they are like they are. I found out that everyone is different. So when I know I have to deal with somebody who is working differently than myself, first of all, I decide in general, do I work together with this person? Yes or no? That's one thing. Yeah. But sometimes you have to deal with people and you cannot say yes or no. It's just a yes. You have to. I'm just taking breaks. Sometimes I have to get out of a room and breathe and say, okay, Roland, calm down. It's difficult, but it's not my job to educate these people, because it's a mindset thing, and some people really are not structured. Some people are maybe, especially when I work with people who are very creative, especially people who are very, very creative. They're not very structured. They don't have a classical, let's call it a business mindset. They're different. I can handle it right now. But sometimes it's just meditation. Om Shanti. How about you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, one thing I know is, especially when you get to spend time with someone, whether it's personally or professionally, the old adage, know your audience. So, some people are much better under pressure just from what you've seen. And then we also know as coaches that sometimes we can push people to see how they're going to respond for their own benefits, just to get them out of that mindset where they're stuck. And that's one of the things I think is really brings me joy, is that when I work with someone and get them to move out of their comfort zone for some reason that's really going to benefit them personally or professionally. But in other cases, I know I might be dealing with someone who is not open to seeing things in a different way. So in those cases, I try to keep the conversation strictly on topic and then get the discussion and then let's move on. But there's no chit chatting about, oh, how is this and how is that? And let's get together and let's talk soon. Let's have a call. No, there's none of that. It's basically, let's get to it and then let's move on.
Yeah. Here in Europe, because, I'm traveling all the time around Europe and in the north and the south and the middle, and there are different countries, different cultures. And, especially when you're in the south, people they want to warm up, they want to socialize. they're not straight, when you come too straight with them in a business like this, no, first of all, I don't know, have a dinner together or lunch together or drink something together. And, they always say, no, come down. It's a nice day. Don't hurry, we can do business later. And when you come like myself, from Austria and Germany, Austrians and Germans are very structured normally, and it's a little bit different. And I remember when I moved to, I've always been traveling, but when I moved full-time to Spain many, many years ago, the first year, to be honest, I was really struggling with their mentality. Now I'm used to it. I know when I meet somebody from, I love you guys. I love the Spanish people. I love the Portuguese. I love them all, the Italian people. But I know right now when I go to a meeting, to be honest, I know that most of the time they're not on time. Most of them, they're not on time because I'm always on time. mostly not on time. It is like it is. So I bring a book with me or something because most of the time I have to wait 10, 15 minutes. They're different. So I can handle it right now. But in the beginning, it was really challenging for me because, most of the time we believe that everyone has to be like ourselves and everyone has to be self-responsible, have been engaged and something. But I learned not all people are the same, because otherwise everyone would be an entrepreneur and successful. But that's not the case. So people are different. And that's what I learned over the last decades, that everyone is different and everyone has a purpose or meaning in life. And it's not the same like mine. Maybe they're not looking in the same direction like myself. But we have to deal with one another because we are working on a business concept or whatever it is, or maybe it's a social gathering or whatever. We are just different. And I can handle it right now. I'm more calm. I'm more calm now, and I can accept it. But I also know where to spend time properly. But yeah, it's different here in Europe because there's so many different cultures and habits and attitudes. And the other thing, it's interesting because their economy is also working, for some reason.
Yeah, for sure. You bring up a really good point, which I just want to second what you've said. I have worked with a number of people on this network, and they were from other parts of the world, and they were notoriously late, and they were all from the same country. And so what I was told, and I'm just saying this is what I was told, not that I believe this, I'm just sharing, is that they work on African time. This is African time, and you show up whenever. And I said, I don't really understand that, because I don't know how anyone could just show up whenever. If everyone's just showing up whenever, that means no one's actually showing up at the same time. And then how are you supposed to get anything done? And so it ended up that we couldn't do the show anymore, because the show is 40 minutes. And if people are showing up 30 minutes into the show, then you're not adding any value. But I want to say, subsequent to that, I've worked with other people from the same country and never had that issue. So sometimes I wonder if we make things about us and then just come up with some kind of terminology to excuse the fact. Something that I think is interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Well, one of the people who are on there, the reality stars, Bravo celebrity, is Dorit, and she's always late. And they've coined the phrase Dorit time. She's on Dorit time, and she's had a lot of excuses. And then I guess after she had time to think about it, because there was a lot of backlash from the cast and also from the audience, she actually apologized. And I that's what I think is so important, that I don't believe any one of us is more important than another. It's basically we don't have time management skills. Because, Roland, I think this is key, and I want you to address this. Things happen, and then people will use that as an excuse. Well, I didn't know the drive was going to take so long. Well, you're driving the drive to work every day. You have to anticipate there's traffic. Why don't you look and see what the traffic is? Look up the GPS every day before you leave. You've got to plan that out. And the last thing I'll say is, when I have appointments, wherever it is I'm going, even when I work out, I always put it in the GPS, because if I'm trying to get to a class and I'm allowing half an hour and there's an accident, I need to know to go a different way. So to me, when people start giving excuses, it's because they're not planning out their day, and they should prepare. We have the ability to say, you know what, not everything's going to be perfect. Let me use the GPS. Let me find out what's going on with the traffic.
100%. You made a very good point, Jacalyn. I think when we talk about certain values, like being on time or whatever it is, what I learned when we work with different cultures is, basically, I always look about myself and say, how can I improve? And I said, okay, people are like they are, but maybe I should improve my communication and maybe my setup. So what I learned is that let's talk about being on time. What you mentioned, being on time, especially in southern countries, most people, and not everyone, but most people are not on time. But a few people are, and they're successful. But anyway, so what I learned is when I set up a business meeting with some a call or whatever it is from a different area, And I know that they are sometimes not on time, or they have a different, I don't know, access to the time, whatever you want to call it. I always make very clear what I understand by being on time. And I said, okay, let's, for example, we start a meeting at 8 a.m. It doesn't mean the meeting starts at 8 a.m. and not at 10 past or 20 past. It doesn't mean that you show up not at 8 a.m., but when it's at 8 a.m., you show up 10, 15 minutes earlier. So before we can have a short warm up, you can say hello to your colleagues, you can prepare a coffee so that we can start the meeting sharp at 8 a.m. And that's what I learned, being very clear, because some people have different interpretation of some values. You know, what does it mean to be on time? What does it mean to be careful? What does it mean about whatever? So we have different interpretations, maybe because of our socialization, maybe because of our cultural background. So what I learned is, because then I'm sorry for that, but then I'm less pissed off at the end of the day. I try to communicate very clear with every person what my expectations are and what I mean by being on time, or what I mean being when about a deadline or something like that. And then and then they can handle, they can deal with it. And so I learned that I have to communicate very clearly what I understand on a different value or different expectations I have on people when I work in a team, for example.
I think that's a terrific point and a great way to set everyone up for success. One thing I remembered in corporate was we had a new manager who came in, and there were meetings a certain day every week. And what he would do is he would close the door, and he would not permit it to be open. I want to say he locked it, but I'm trying to envision in what world there might be a locked conference room. But I remember, I think it was locked, so you couldn't get in. And people they would have all kinds of excuses. Well, my kids this, and their school that, and the nurse and this and that. And so basically what people learned was, whatever it is that you're dealing with, you're not getting into that meeting unless you're there on time. And all of a sudden, mysteriously, people started showing up on time. And in the beginning, they were very angry because they felt like they had to make all of these changes in their life, and how dare he keep us out. But it was a known fact that if you're working for this guy, he held meetings on Mondays, and they started at 8 o'clock in the morning. And so what I think is so interesting about this is, by setting a boundary and having a standard, other people had to change their behavior. And if they didn't want to change their behavior, they could find another job. They had options.
That's a very good point. I remember in my process, one of my team members, I did the same when I had a meeting. I locked the door, who was not sharp on time there. I did this. I remember there was a young lady, she has 2 kids. She said, Roland, I can't be on time because I have to bring them to kindergarten and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. And I said, you know what? You're an amazing mom, because I met you in private. I was at your home. You're an amazing mom. It's wonderful. Let me ask you just one question. How can you be a perfect mom? What can you do to be a perfect mom and bring your kids to the kindergarten safely and show up in a meeting on time? What can you do? And she looked at me. What do you mean? Yeah, what can you do? And she said, well, I can get up earlier 15 minutes. And I said, oh, okay, maybe that's working. You know what I mean? Is giving responsibility back to them. But just a question. I didn't say, okay, just get out your butt out of the bed 15 minutes earlier. No, I said, what can you do? She said, well, maybe I can get up earlier in the morning. I said, yeah, that's a possible solution.
What a revelation that is. No, but what you did really required this person to take responsibility and accountability and come up with a solution. It's always about the solution. And I think that's another key takeaway of our Unscripted show today, which is, instead of living and dying by the excuse, what is the solution? What can you do to get it done? And Roland, I think sometimes people don't really want to do it. And that's what's at the core, that they put it off. They don't want to go to the meeting at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, right? You just had the weekend. Now you have to drive in the traffic. Of course, now sometimes people are on Zoom, but I'm talking about before this when everyone was driving. And so it's really like, oh, I don't want to go to that meeting. How dare he have a meeting on Monday? I'll just show up when I want to show up, as opposed to, oh, I get to go to this meeting. I get to have this information that's going to be shared. It's turning it around.
Yeah. I think that this medal has two sides, you know. Some people really have this victim mood. They always think they're a victim of the circumstances. They don't get an idea that they can, yeah. I would say that they have to be in the driving seat and being clear about which direction they're going. So some people really feel this victim mood or about the circumstance. Yeah, I'm a mom. Maybe I'm a single mom. And blah, 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 blah. I said, yeah, okay, but that's one thing. And the other thing, when we talk about meetings, I always talk to managers, like, the meeting must be so sexy and so interesting that everyone is rushing to it. Okay. To be honest, some meetings, I mean, I was in the corporate world, you've been in the corporate world, some meetings are so boring.
Boring.
Yeah. So I think that's the other side of the medal, you know. I mean, when you're a team member and there's a meeting and you know, oh, I have to be there because I get great information, I can learn something, I can improve, I become a better team member, I can make more achievements. Then I do everything to be there.
Yeah,
there are two sides of the medal.
It's really true. And what I also think is that when we embrace it and look at it from that perspective, opportunities start coming our way because we've removed that blockage and that ego-based mindset where I get to do this. This is opportunity that I wouldn't have otherwise. And sometimes we realize, you know, it's actually not for me. I'm not interested in driving 60 miles to go to work and sitting through meetings. And that's okay as well. But it's not about blaming someone else. It's about basically taking accountability. And let's go back to what we haven't mentioned, but what's super important is looking at that scale of happiness. How happy are you? So if you're happy doing what it is you're doing, then these things are gifts and they're rewards. But if you're not happy, you can find any number of excuses or reasons why you don't want to do something.
100%. You know, I remember when I was very, very engaged in the Just Bus business 30 years ago. Sometimes I was driving 6-7 hours on the. I started part-time, so on the weekends when I was not in my corporate job, so I was driving on a Saturday morning, you know, 6 hours to go to a meeting on my expenses, my time, traveling costs, hotel costs, and people ask me, why are you doing this? They don't pay you. You pay them. I said, yes, because I want it. I want to learn. I want to get the information. I want to grow my business. I want it. And I think that's you know, this business owner, this entrepreneur mindset, but not everybody has this. You know, I remember when I was in the corporate world and I was organizing our weekend, really amazing weekend trips, you know, amazing spots. And people say, yeah, do I really have to join? I want to stay at home with my family, blah, blah. What the heck? You get paid. Not only the hotel and everything is paid, also you get paid, the time get paid. And people say, no, I don't want it. Oh.
It is really interesting to see how people perceive things. This just happened to me recently. I'm not going to say specifically when, but I take 2 workout classes every day. And sometimes if I'm not going to Solid Core because I can't get in, you have to cancel within 10 hours. And sometimes with my work schedule, I don't want to pay the fee. So I might schedule that day. But anyway, when that doesn't happen, I'll take this class, this like interval training, and then the other parts on the floor. I'll take 2 of them back to back. So someone who was in the class saw that I was staying for the second class and just came up to me. I was on the treadmill and said, you know, you really shouldn't do a second class. What you should be doing is lifting weights. And I thought, well, I am going to be lifting weights if I'm spending half the time on the floor lifting weights. And I just said, well, I find that I'm getting a lot of value because I'm breaking it up with sprints and interval training. And this person continued going on. And I thought to myself, what this really is about, and this is how life is that the first class was hard. This person didn't want to do another hard class. They wanted to go lift weights. And I'm not saying lifting weights isn't hard, but it's not the same thing as doing cardio and sprints and interval up and, that's not the same thing. So because this person didn't want to do it, they were then putting their mindset onto me. And that's what we do a lot of times. Let's say someone's late for the meeting. And after the meeting, they say to the other person, it's really not that important to get here on time. I was dealing with my kids, all these excuses. They want to try to get the other person to go, oh, you know what? You're right. It's not that important. Maybe next week I won't show up on time either. Right? It's like that old misery loves company. We want to drag someone down with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, years ago when I was facilitating trainings worldwide, for companies, sometimes I always had someone in the group after an hour or two. He said, sorry, can we make a break? I think a lot of people need some pee time. And I said, and in the beginning, I said, okay, yes, we can do it. And then I found out what's going on. I said, why don't you say just, I need a break? Right? I need a break. I want a coffee. I want to go for a pee. But why are you telling that other people need a break? I look around, they're shaking their heads. So.
It's true. It's like we need that external validation instead of raising our hand. And by the way, everything that we do is not going to be perceived the same way by everyone else. But for example, when I was starting the second class and this person said something, I could have been like, oh, you're right. You know what? I shouldn't be doing this class. Let me come along with you and let me do whatever it is that you're doing. It's like what's the expression about following the herd? And there's been actual documentaries on this, and there was a TV show. I can't think of the name of it, but basically it was in the public domain. Let's say it's in a shopping mall, and one person was hired to do something that would get people's attention. And all of a sudden, other people started following because the person was acting like something was going on. And people like, oh my gosh, I've got to be a part of this. Like maybe they thought there was an emergency or a celebrity was coming. And people would just start following this person for no particular reason. And it's that kind of mindset of the herd mentality. And to me, that goes with that external validation that we're looking around going, okay, thank you. Yeah, that's great. That's what I needed. So what are your thoughts about this as we close out our show?
Yeah, I can also relate to it because sometimes it happened to me when I'm somewhere, traveling somewhere, I don't know, in a new sport. And then I talk to some people and then I want to go somewhere, if I go to a restaurant or whatever. I just walk around and people follow me because they think I know where I'm going. I have no idea.
I've seen that before.
People just follow you for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, some people like you, they command that kind of authority, and people are like, oh, if he's going there, it must be the place to go. And they'll forget about whatever it was they were supposed to be doing or why they were there. And it's just like, oh. And so later on this particular documentary, they interviewed the people and they asked them, and it was the same reason. Well, what you just said, he looked like he knew what he was doing and was something that we should know about. So we'll just follow the person.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, we have to say goodbye. What would you like to say to people as we close out today, another episode of Unscripted?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for joining, man or lady, when you joined here, and it's always a lot of fun. I hope you had some insights from our show today. If you want to get in contact with me, send me an email. It's office@rolandfriedl.com. I bring something new out. I started our new company, 100% on AI. It's a fantastic journey. I'm very, very excited. I started 6 months ago. Now the baby is on the street next week. So if you want to learn more about how AI can support your business, and you just focus on what you really want to do, like your creativity or work with clients, just contact me, office@rolandfriedl.com. And if you speak German, you're more than welcome to join my show at 7 p.m. every Tuesday, 7 p.m. today. It's the Macher Talk. It's more a business-related show. And at 8 p.m., both are Central European time. It's the Mutmacher Talk. So if you speak German, you're more than welcome to join me. Thank you.
Thank you, Roland. I really appreciate you, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your afternoon and evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. If you are somewhere on social media watching, we'd love to have you join our community on YouTube, which is USA Global TV and Radio, and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. As we close out, I personally want to thank each and every one of you for taking this journey with us, because without you, we would just be talking to a blank wall or a computer screen. So thank you for being with us, and we'd love to have you join our team. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Every great story begins with a vision. At USA Global TV and Radio, for years, we've been providing world-class education, entertainment, inspiration, imagination, connections, and hope. Most people don't stay to watch the outro or the credits, but it's the people behind every success, behind every breakthrough, and behind every unforgettable story who matter. The TV show hosts, our guests, our sponsors, our publicists, our production team, our distribution team, our search engine optimization team, and so many more. You're the ones who make the difference. Every great story belongs to the people who bring it to life. Our future looks bright at USA Global TV and Radio, and that's because of you, our loyal fan base all around the world in more than 60 countries. Together, we're making a difference because you matter. USA Global TV and Radio, live streaming to over 60 countries. Voiceover, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Video production and direction, Paul Garcia. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV and Radio on YouTube.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.